I'm joined by Justin Dillon, CEO of Made in a Free World at the Milken Institute Global Conference. Good to see you here.
Thanks for having me.
You spoke on a panel called Rethinking the Supply Chain, and you spent a lot of time thinking about really how goods are getting made and moved around. So what are companies doing wrong when it comes to the supply chain?
Well, the organization Made in a Free World, we focus primarily on forced labor and child labor in supply chains. And while it's not a very popular topic, we have a particularly hopeful view on it because we're living in a time and age where we're able to use data and predictive analytics to be able to look at some of the greater challenges when it comes to on-time delivery and all the other things that we need to get the things that we want in goods and services. Part of our job is to take the best of how we're making decisions when it comes in other areas of the supply chain and use those to protect the world's most valuable resource, which is people. So where companies might be doing something wrong is not thinking about the same tools that they're using to make big decisions they can also use to help protect people.
So where are some of the most egregious violations, either in companies or in regions, where you're really seeing people drop the ball?
Well, I think the ball is being dropped in not looking beyond the first tier supplier. I think we've had the last 25 years since the kind of sweatshop era of accountability, which has been very important and has been helpful, and a lot of people's lives have been changed. But we're still living in that era, right? Back in the era of fax machines and beepers. So we're looking at challenges just based on first tier. What's happening now is the risk that falls in lower tiers in the supply chain is starting to find its way up all the way to companies. The rewards don't. The rewards are usually adopted by middlemen lower in the supply chains, but the risks are starting to come up.
Such as, what do you mean by that?
So the risk of forced labor in supply chain. A great example, Associated Press just did a huge piece on the Thailand fishing industry. So literally people being kept in cage, shanghaied, and put out on boats for 7 years. These are migrant workers that have traveled to Thailand in hope of a better life to protect their families. And they're winding up making not only the shrimp and the other food we eat, but their labor ends up in cat food. So we're missing the bottom of our supply chain. We do have the tools, we do have the technology, we're just missing the will.
Justin, you have a really interesting story about Apple and the supply chain, if you could share that.
Yeah, I think everyone loves to pick on Apple because they're the most profitable company in the world or wherever they're at this moment. But years ago, when we created a website called Slavery Footprint, what we wanted to be able to do is kind of connect consumers to their favorite brands. And one of the ways to do that is to take Slavery Footprint, but another was to send letters to these companies, let them know that you care about this. And I thought maybe a good first test email would be to send a letter to my favorite CEO at the time, was Steve Jobs. And so we wrote a letter to Steve and said, hey, do you know about slavery in the iPhone? Do you know about tantalum? Do you know about forced labor? Do you know about all the conflict minerals that are happening in the DRC and other areas? And sent off the email, and I was assured by my team that no assistant would send it back, because Steve doesn't do that, but I didn't expect anything. And about 4 hours later, we get this email from back. It said, I had no idea, I'll look into it. Steve, sent from my iPhone. And I always show that email to procurement folks and individuals and say, change is possible, because Steve didn't stop there. In 2014, they put out a sustainability report where they've actually gone all the way down to those artisanal mines and are able to look at the smelters where the conflict minerals are coming from and work on recruitment fees from migrant workers who are leaving their countries just to support their families and are ended up in some of these factories. Apple's been incredibly innovative. So it's not about us not having a way to fix this. It's really about us having a will.
Justin Dillon, great talking to you.
Thank you.